أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. One of the things which will break our fast, which remained unmentioned, was to allow dust, thick dust or heavy dust, whether dust from the earth or from any grain powder or whatever food, to go down our throat, to allow purposely, to stand at a place where, say it is a mill, where some grain is being ground and there is enough dust coming out, or if there is a place where there is dust, earth dust, and if you allow that to enter the gullet or down your throat, then the roza is batil. But very little of it, dust as you sometimes come across in the streets, or if a car passes and you find some dust, and that dust enters your throat, your roza is not batil. What we mean is quite heavy powder or dust entering your. So when you are exposed to such a situation, you will try to avoid standing at such places. Among those people who have been exempted, there are certain people who suffer from certain illnesses like thirst. Now that is not very common. I mean, everybody feels thirsty when he is fasting. Because of that sort of thirst, of course, we are not exempted. But if it is an illness, in a sense that there is a question of life and death involved, and one cannot stand that thirst, then that man is exempted from fasting. Similarly, the ladies who are in their periods will not fast during the days in which they are in their period, but they will pay qada after Ramadan. The mothers who are breastfeeding, and even those women whose profession is to nurse children, that means they adopt children for breastfeeding, whether they charge or they do not charge, because many a times within the families also, if the mother is taken ill, what we do is, if there's another mother in the family, the child is taken away by that mother and breastfed. I mean, this has happened in many families. In fact, if I have been breastfed by another woman, another mother, not my mother, for 15 times, if I have directly been breastfed by another lady, then she becomes my mother and I become her son. And not only that, but her children, that means her children means her sons, and her daughters become my brothers and my sisters. We can't marry each other because we have been fed by the same breast. The only problem will be that I don't inherit from them. But otherwise, I don't inherit from her. But she is my mother and her children are my brothers and sisters, and we can't marry each other because we have been fed by one breast. So, if she is a breastfeeding mother and if she fasts, there will be a problem, health hazard for herself and for the child. Maybe that she will not be able to provide that much milk for the child because of hunger and fasting, then she is exempted from fasting, but there is a qada later on. Ayatullah Sistani has added one line here, and he says if there is an alternative for feeding the child, that means, it can be possible that there is another mother who says, I will feed your child half the time the actual mother feeds, so they share. And by so sharing, if she can fast, then she should fast. That means if there is an alternative whereby the responsibility of the breastfeeding mother is reduced and no harmful effect falls on fasting, then she should fast. If there is no alternative, then of course she will not fast then, but she will fast after Ramadan as qada. Now there are certain diseases which require medication, constant medication. That means tablets must be taken, for example, per day. Otherwise a man may not be keeping well, then he will not fast. And if during the year he recovers and he can give qada, he will give qada. If in the whole year he did not recover, and God forbid the illness is of such a nature that he has got to take constantly for a lifetime certain tablets, then he has got, or she has got no qada to give. She will give only fidya, which I will discuss later. But I was asked once upon a time about asthmatics, those who suffer from asthma. May Allah grant them recovery, but this is something which is some natural ailment. And if they have been advised by doctor to take inhalers, to use inhalers so that they may be able to fast. I used to be under the impression that this goes down the throat or down the food pipe or the gullet, and that is the reason why we said that it will invalidate the fast. But we have been now told by those who know, that means the doctors and the professionals, that those who inhale inhalers have been trained by the doctors to inhale in such a manner that the inhalers don't go down the food pipe, actually they go straight into the lungs. If that is the case, then one can use inhalers and the fast will not be batil. Because what is important is it must not go down the food pipe. If one does it correctly and properly as guided by the doctor, and then it goes straight to the lungs, then of course roza is not batil. And one can use inhalers as well fast. For the few minutes that are left, we were discussing about this tahdhib al-nafs. Tahdhib al-nafs is to train oneself in such a discipline which is Islamic, so that one becomes a human being who has a status in the eyes of Islam. And as a lesson one that the Prophet ﷺ gave to our Abu Dharr Ghifari, I said, last night he said that guard your tongue. Many may feel that this is something we knew, but at the same time I should say this is something we never practice, because we never guard our tongue. One day the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with the companions and he asked a simple question. He said, who is bankrupt? Manil muflis. Muflis, Muflis is called, muflis normally in our language is a poor man. But actually in fiqh, in Islamic Sharia law terminology, muflis means a bankrupt. One who has no right anymore over his own property unless the debts have been decided. So the people were actually first stunned. They could not answer because it was a very obvious question. And then one of them said, Ya Rasulullah, naturally, one who has no money, overwhelmed by debts, cannot pay back his debts, he is a muflis. The Prophet said, that is not a muflis. That can happen to man if he has not planned his finance well, or if there is any problem which unexpectedly arose, it can happen. Muflis, bankrupt, is one who will be bankrupt on the day of Qiyamah. And then he said, a man will come with his record full of good deeds. Another man will be brought before him, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will command and say, you spoke ill of this man in his absence, backbiting and riba, give him all your good deeds as much as to compensate. So there will be a transfer. And the Prophet said, if after having transferred the good deeds, still he has not been able to recompense that man fully, then he has to take his evil deeds into his record to make the balance proper. And that, he said, Rasulullah said, that is the bankrupt man. فَهُوَ الْمُفْلِسِ فِي الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. Now, why I insist on this, that I have to look into my own nafs first. We sometimes talk and speak when it is not even necessary. And we lead ourselves to guna. And no nafs. Imam Zaman salawatullah salamu alayhi. We read ziyarat on Friday. Do we ponder over the word we use? Assalamu alayka ayyuhal muhazzabul khaif. Muhazzab is one man who has been totally in Islamic civilization is muhazzab. Tahdib is civilization. Assalamu alayka ayyuhal muhazzabul khaif. Because the nafs has been trained to a stage where we call him muhazzab. And we have been asked to be muhazzab. Dawood alayhi salam was a prophet. In Bible he is known as David. And the mu'jiza and the miracle that Allah gave him was that Quran says, فَأَلَنَّا لَهُ الْحَدِيدِ. Iron in his hand was soft. That means he manipulated iron without fire. One day he was sitting and he devised an armor for the first time. The man who devised an armor to be used in the battles and war was Hazrat Dawood alayhi salam. Because he could manipulate iron, while he was actually designing it and making it and preparing it, Luqman was sitting there. Luqman is not a prophet. Luqman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says he was a very wise man, Hakim, and of course his surah appears in Quran, Surah Luqman. He was sitting there watching Hazrat Dawood prepare this new thing which he had never seen. And Dawood expected that Luqman should ask as to what he was doing. And Luqman did not ask. He just sat watching. And you know, when you do something new and I just watch, and you expect me to ask and appreciate and I don't, you really feel disturbed. Hazrat Dawood alayhi salam kept silent, and when the whole thing was ready, he asked Luqman to put it on. He said, Luqman, just come nearby. And as he came, he said, would you please put it on? And he put it on. And then he said, Luqman, what is it? Luqman said, I don't know. He said, Banda Khuda, I have been laboring after this for so many hours, you didn't ask. Now that I have given it you to put on, you don't know what it is, you still did not ask. What type of man are you? And he said, Dawood, I knew that you will tell me what it is. Why should I ask? I don't say, I don't speak, I don't utter words which are unnecessary. You would tell me. I mean, you have to tell me after all. Now you tell me what it is. He said, Luqman, it is an armor. So there you are. So why should I ask? So now let us take an example. One man came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, look, many types of people came to the Prophet. The mullahs are sometimes disturbed because we get so many types of people. We don't know that the Prophet got verse of it. Allah says, فَبِمَا رَحْمَةٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ لِنْتَ لَهُمْ. O Prophet, it is the mercy of Allah that you are so soft with the people. وَلَوْ كُنْتَ فَضًّا غَلِيظَ الْقَلْبِ. If you were severe and hard with the people, لَنْ فَضُّوا مِنْ حَوْلِكَ. They would have all escaped, gone away. So one man came and said, Ya Rasulullah, look, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I want only one simple formula which will save me from hellfire. That's all. Tell me one thing, what should I do? Simple. And he said, the Prophet said, guard your tongue and never speak lies. He said, is that enough? He said, it is enough. Never speak lies. Go. I guarantee we shall go to Jannah together. Now leave this aside and now let us see what we do. I come out. Assalamu alaikum, Mulla Sahib. Kya thi aaya? From where are you coming? Now I don't want to tell you. For very good reason. I have to lie. Huh? Or I have to insult him. I'm one of those things, which one cannot do. So one has got to speak a lie. Kya thi aaya? From where are you coming? Kya jao chu? Where are you going? Kya re aaya? When did you come? Shu karwa gaya tha? Why did you go there? All these searching questions are uncalled for. The Prophet said, never ask a man coming where he is coming from, and never ask him where he is going. You are going to force him to lie sometimes when he doesn't. If he tells you where he is coming from, good. If he wants to tell you where he is trying to go to, good. But why are you putting searching questions? Tane olai su kidu. What did he tell you? Now, it's a private matter. He tells me something which is private. He wants me to guard it till I die. He confides in me. You are asking me a pointed question. Now, if I don't tell you, you will feel bad. If I lie to you, I am committing a sin. If I tell you the truth, there is a breach of trust. Now, this man, as he left the Prophet's presence, he came out, he was going to drink. He was going to booze. And just as he came out, one man like me said, Salaam alaikum, where are you going? Now, he could not say, because he knew that it is haram. And the Prophet is just behind there. So he said, look, I'll tell you the truth. I was going to drink, but now I will not go. So he didn't go. Gradually, if anybody would ask, Namaz padi, have you prayed? If he has not, what will he say? Ha padi? So gradually, if he did not pray, he started praying. If he went drinking or whatever, he stopped. All those evil habits, because people asked searching questions. His wife would ask him, Mora kem thiya? Huh? And many people say, Mulla Asghar sathi aata. And he is not there. You see? Trying to save their skin, put my name in between. You see? So it happens, and it has happened. I'm not joking, it has happened many a times. I have been asked whether I was there, and I was not there. You see? But they say so that he was with me because they want to, and these lies lead us very far. So, my friends, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salam alayh, said one thing. He said, there are two things which he said, and with that I would like to end. That wisdom of Ali ibn Abi Talib, that in-depth study of human nature. Nahj al-Balagha is actually to be acknowledged as an insight into human nature. 2 words, and it opens a chapter. Opens a chapter for men to ponder and think. He said, the tongue of a wise man is behind his mind. The mind works first and the tongue works next. And the tongue of a fool is before his mind. He talks first and then he thinks. What did I say? That's what he said. Now just ponder over this. And the second thing he said, Al-kalamu fi wifaqika. Your word which has not yet fallen out of your mouth is in your control. إِذَا تَكَلَّمْتَ فَأَنْتَ فِي وِفَاقِكَ. Once you spoke, then you are in control of your word. Your word is in your control, as long as you have not spoken. The moment you spoke, then you are in the control of your word. You have got to fulfill what you have said, otherwise. So, what happens when you don't speak? This is something which is a bit heavy to consider, but please do think of it. Allah has given us power in here, which is called reason, intellect, intelligence. Has given power here, which is called the mind, not that heart which hangs or which stops or which gets an attack. I mean the mind. Human mind is powerful. Human brain is powerful. It is correctly said that man is not using even 1% of his brain. Not even 1%. We are not using. And those people who use their brains, we see them as genius. We see them as extraordinary. Well, the way to convey your thoughts, the matrix for which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you is the power of speech. Given to no one but to us, power of speech. Through which you convey what you think. Allahu Akbar. It is the greatest miracle that has been performed by nature. Now when that is not used correctly, thinking becomes wayward. Thinking becomes wayward. It is an aberration in thinking. When you control your thinking and speak accordingly, your thinking is consistent, otherwise it is inconsistent. And that is the reason why we see our lives go like that, with no result whatsoever. Because there isn't any thinking. Why? Because there is too much of talking. Paul Brunton wrote, I wish that somebody read his book. He's an Englishman, went to India, went to Egypt, went to all parts in the East, and he wrote books of wisdom of the East. And one book he writes, he says, have you seen that the sun with all its splendor, heat, light, does not raise the waves of the sea, does it? The tide don't come with the sun, huh? The tides come with the moon. He said, do you see that the sun with all its splendor and all its hullabaloo does not raise the waves? What raises the waves is the calm and cool light of the moon. At times a man with that wisdom which goes like with that of Imam Hussein or Imam Hassan, or with the wisdom that went with Imam Ali and Imam Zainul Abidin, that people came there as they saw in that silence, there was always a surge of Iman. Well, we have got to enter into that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hujurat then guides us what not to do. It will have to be taken into consideration by us so that we become truly Muslim. The moment I come out of this mosque, after dua, Allahu Akbar, this dua which we read just now, iftitah, each and every sentence has got deep meaning in it. Dua tawassul, Quran Majid. After this, if I come out and I am engaged in the same nonsensical talks, not only nonsensical talks, but the talks which would really harm people and disrupt unity in the community, disrupt unity and love of the families, and then we say we are Shias, Nationalists and Muslims. Where are we? We haven't understood our faith. So this effort in Ramadan this time is to help ourselves and our children, our ladies and gents, to understand the truth. It pains me, really, it pains me. I was in the office just now and somebody came and said, last night in the Imambara, somewhere here, a purse of a lady was stolen, containing ornaments. 3 chadars, new ones, were stolen. It reflects. If I see a coat there which doesn't belong to me, it is not mine. I am not supposed to put it on. Even if my coat is not there, somebody has taken it, I don't have the right to take your coat. If I come out there and I don't see my shoes, it doesn't mean that I take somebody else's shoe and go. See? It pains. It means that we haven't understood what we are doing. How can I touch somebody else's property? And then also praying with somebody else's property. Stolen is haram and ghasbi, usurped, and everything is batil. There is no meaning. So it's sometimes, in practical lives, my friends, my sisters and brothers, in practical life, Sharia has got to be reflected in our day-to-day life. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.